All right, so let's get straight into my review. Episode 5 of The Last of Us. This one's called Endure and Survive. And this is probably one of my favorite episodes of the series so far. I really enjoyed this one. And, you know, lucky for all of us, Joel and Ellie here wanted to watch the Super Bowl. So, like Ellie suggested, that this came out on Friday instead of Sunday. So it's nice that we got this a little bit sooner. I did watch it Friday night when it came out, and so tomorrow night, Sunday night, I'll be able to watch the Super Bowl. So I hope you guys got to check this one out a little bit early. If not, make sure you go back and watch episode 5 before you watch this review because it will contain spoilers. But overall, I really enjoyed this episode, and one of the things I enjoyed most about this episode was the story structure of the episode because at the end in episode 4 we see that what happens with Joel and Ellie as they enter Kansas City and they wreck the truck and everything. And then the end of the episode, basically, Ellie's being held at gunpoint by Henry and Sam here, who are characters from the video game. And I thought these characters remain very faithful to the video game, but what I really liked again was being able to almost in this episode go back in time and see where Henry and Sam were when Joel and Ellie were first getting into Kansas City. So I like when shows do that when they kind of go back. It's like just a little bit of a flashback, and you see episode 4 almost from a different angle with these two characters, and then eventually how they come to meet Joel and Ellie. So that was one of my favorite things about the episode. And again, I just really enjoyed these characters of Henry and Sam, and I really enjoyed what was different about Sam in the episode in the show versus the game was he's deaf. So that just added a whole nother element to this episode. And as I was watching it, I was like, "Oh, is one of these characters deaf? Or are they just trying to be really quiet and using sign language in order to stay quiet and not be detected and everything?" But in reality, Sam is deaf, and that was a good surprise. That was a good change from the game, I feel, in my opinion. But one thing I really liked about the Sam character too was just this whole thing about superheroes, and he's got this face paint on and everything, and he's making all these drawings and pictures of superheroes, of himself as a superhero, um, and that was really a cool element of this episode as well. And then we get Joel and Ellie, and I also really enjoyed Ellie's interactions with Sam in this episode, and she kind of picks up on some of the sign language, and um, there's some really good interactions between Sam and Ellie, and just Sam just wonders, like, how are you not afraid? How you seem so unafraid and unaffected by everything, but really Ellie reveals that deep down she is afraid all the time. So I just thought there were some really good character moments in this episode, and character interactions I thought were really solid. This episode also had some good action as eventually our characters are trying to get out of Kansas City, and they end up going through like the underground tunnel system. And I thought for sure there would be some infected down there, because Henry kind of tells them, I heard from somebody that they've all been, wiped out of there basically, and there's no infected down there. And Joel's kind of thinking to himself, yeah, right. Like, he's like, well, there might be like a couple, but they go down there and they see this whole that somebody had been living down there, and there's almost this like classroom set up to the whole thing, and there's moments of Ellie and Sam just like kicking a soccer ball and having fun, and it was just this nice moment of just this kind of break from all the horrible things that are happening around these characters in this world. But then, they emerge from the tunnel area, and they kind of get pinned down here because there's a sniper um, that is shooting at them, and Joel basically has to go in and try to take this guy out. And but at the same time, we have the Kansas City mob or whatever we want to call them that's arriving on the scene too. So it made for a lot of good action, as Joel's in there with the weapon with the scope and everything, and he's taking people out, as um trying to get Henry and Sam and Ellie to be able to get out of there and make their escape. And then we get in this episode something I've been waiting for as a game player. We get a bloater here, and we have all of these infected that emerge from underground here. So they were under there somewhere, and they're just running around like crazy, and it was pretty intense. It was like this swarm of infected, and then you have this bloater who just like rips somebody apart, like rips their head from their shoulders. And it was pretty intense. So yeah, we get all that in this episode. So some good action there too. And then in the end of the episode, and oh, man, it gets really tough, because we see that Sam gets bitten, and he's just really worried and really scared. And that's when he's asking Ellie about, is she ever scared, and those types of things. And in desperation, when Ellie sees that Sam is bit, she thinks maybe her blood can save him since she's immune. So she tries desperately to like cut herself and put her blood on him to heal him. And so she goes to wake him up, or she doesn't go to wake him up, but in the morning she sees that he's sitting on the bed, and he is turned already and goes after her and attacks her. And Henry's the one who has to shoot him. He doesn't let Joel do it, because he's still thinking maybe there's a little bit of hope, but then he realizes he has to kill his little brother, which is just heartbreaking. And then he feels like he has nothing to live for, so he then turns the gun on himself. And so it was just another traumatic event for Ellie to be involved in, and just another step in the journey of these characters. So yeah, it was a pretty intense episode. I really enjoyed Henry and Sam, the portrayal of those characters here. I thought it was really well done. And I'd also like to get into some comparisons between the video game and the show. Now, there are a lot of similarities in this episode between the video game and the show. Yeah, so IGN, again, does a really nice breakdown every week that you can check out on their YouTube channel, where they compare the game to the TV show. And I've really enjoyed checking that out each week, because sometimes I don't remember all the stuff that happened in the game. And actually, in my replay of The Last of Us for PS5, I haven't gotten to this point yet, so I need to get some more gameplay in this week and catch up with the show. But the game and the TV show were very similar in this episode, and I feel like this is one of the more faithful adaptations in terms of a single episode to the game. But what did you guys think? Did you enjoy episode 5 of The Last of Us? Be sure to stay tuned to the From a Certain Point of View podcast for your weekly reviews of The Last of Us on HBO Max.